building in here with the lighter orange bricks until they built all around it. So it wasn't always St. Lawrence Market. This building actually has a lot of different, it's done a lot throughout the history of Toronto. At one point, this is where you would go to get lashed. And this was at the time where you could get lashed for anything. You could get executed for singing Yankee Doodle, because then they thought that you were an American sympathizer. It was also kind of like our city hall at one point, however now it is an amazing market. So this area over here is called Old Town Toronto. This used to be the heart of the city. So the street that we are driving on right now is called Front Street, and you might be wondering, why is it called Front Street? What is it in front of? Well, back in the day, throughout the history of Toronto, so in the 1600s, this actually used to be the very front of the city. So everything on our right-hand side used to be water. It was very shallow water though, so it was very impractical for developing the industry and for trading and developing our harbors. So everything you see to our right is all artificial land. It's been added throughout the centuries. They began in the 1600s. The last part that they added was in the 1960s. Now a bit about the history of Canada and Toronto in general. So originally this area was populated by First Nations, and this Front Street was actually one of their major trading routes. And there are some different versions of where the word Toronto itself comes from. Some believe that it comes from Takaronto, which is a Mohawk term which means a tree standing in shallow water, and this refers to the fact that the First Nations people used to plant the trees in shallow water in order to trap fish. Other believes that it comes from the word Toronton, which means the meeting place. However, when the French came, they just interpreted all these names as Toronto, which is what we call it now. Now, the French weren't the first people to discover Canada. Later on, the British came, they bought it from the French, and Toronto was renamed, and it was called York, after the Duke of York, who was King James III's favorite son. So Toronto was called York at one point, and we really didn't like this. We received a lot of mockery. New York City was already well established, and so we got a lot of mean nicknames. We were called Muddy York, Dirty York, I'd rather be in New York, York. We were very unhappy, so we turned to John Graves Simcoe, who's the man who renamed the city, and we said, please sir, can we rename our city back to Toronto? He said, yeah, sure, you can rename it over my dead body. And we took this very literally. We waited until he died, and then 8 years later, just to pay some respect, and after that we renamed it back to Toronto. So we've gone through quite a few names, but ultimately it's been Toronto ever since. Very soon we will be approaching our next stop for the distillery. Is anyone interested in hopping off? Yep, we have some stop requests. So the distillery is a great place. Right now it's only for pedestrians, so we can't actually drive through. Now, very important site on the right-hand side. Very important for the history of Toronto. Yes, I am talking about the Big Wax Car Wash. We just drove by Parliament Street, and it's called Parliament Street because one of the Big Wax Car Wash stands, that's actually where our Parliament used to stand, until we got into a small disagreement with our American neighbors. The War of 1812, they marched over, burned down our Parliament. Now we have the Big Wax Car Wash. And what we did actually to retaliate is we burned down their presidential house. However, unfortunately for us, it started raining, so it didn't really work. And then they rebuilt it, and that is now the White House. So who won that one, I wonder? So we have come to our stop. If anybody would like to hop off for the distillery is just up ahead on the right-hand side over here. I highly recommend checking it out if you'd like to eat some delicious food. It's actually anti-corporation. Yep, you can come off now. Thank you. So it's anti-corporation, so you can only find local businesses in there. It's also the largest preservation of Victorian industrial architecture in North America. They film a ton of movies there. In the X-Men movie, most recently, the entrance to the distillery was actually used as Auschwitz. Kind of strange, but there's also a brewery there where they make their very own beer. And the reason why it's called a distillery is because it used to be a whiskey distillery. It was very successful. Back in the day, we did not have clean, purified water, so everyone had to drink whiskey, including babies. They would just distill it for them. And so this distillery was extremely successful. The man who owned it, George Gooderham, was very wealthy, and he's the one who built the Flatiron Building. So now we are about to enter a neighborhood of Toronto called Corktown, and it's named Corktown after the county of Cork in Ireland. And the reason why it's named after a county in Ireland is because there was a huge wave of Irish immigrants that came in the 1850s. They were escaping the potato famine, which was from 1845 to 1849. So they came to Toronto, and they had to come by boat. It was a very expensive journey. They spent all their money, and when they came here, unfortunately, they were greeted with a lot of discriminatory policies. So back then, we did not have free public education, and the Irish were not able to afford to go to school.